scruffy this morning. Anyway, that's how you get me. Yes, without fossil fuels, you will die. You personally will die. I will probably die as well. But there you go. I can stop right there. That's your problem. You can't have fossil fuels. I mean, your problem is that without fossil fuels, you will die. That's a personal problem. Lots of people will die. Most people will die without fossil fuels. I've said this many times. There are 8,000 million humans on Earth. Probably this planet, nominally in the past, could have maybe did support 200 million humans. That's a fraction of 8,000 million humans, 200 million humans. And, you know, in the way the Earth is now is fucked up, screwed up as it is, maybe 100,000, maybe less, right? That's what this planet can support without fossil fuels, without constantly banging on the fossil fuel drum to stir up food and clothing and shelter, which is where it's all coming from right now. Without that constant input of fossil fuels, currently close to banging, right up against 100 million barrels a day of crude oil alone. Without that, you will probably die. I'm looking at you. You personally will die. I probably will. My age, with where I am and my resources, I'd probably die without fossil fuels. Paul Beckwith, this morning, I mention him a lot because my wife likes to listen to him. So when she's listening to him, I get to listen to him. And so Paul Beckwith was complaining this morning that a town, he was really emotional. He's a pretty low key guy, right? He's a pretty low key guy. If you're familiar with his work, he doesn't get upset for a Canadian, right? They're very polite and very down to earth, so he doesn't get upset very much. And he was visibly upset. You could hear it in his voice and his choice of words that he was using. He was real upset for Paul Beckwith. I was kind of wow. He was shocked, and the reason he was shocked was because this town of Jasper, community of Jasper, in his area, he was apparently quite familiar with it. Had been there, knew about it, called it beautiful, most beautiful. He said many times, the most beautiful place on earth, the most beautiful place on earth, the community of Jasper, the most beautiful place on earth. And it was almost like a travel log, skiing, boating, whatever, camping, most beautiful place on earth. Apparently it just burned down. It burned down. One of the, Canadian boreal forest fires, of which there's, I don't know how many right now, 200 or so. They can't even fight these things. They're so remote. There's so many of them that they just let them burn pretty much. And they try to defend structures and towns and important, facilities, businesses, whatnot. They try to, defend those. But the fires, they just burn. There's 200 fires in Canada, and there will be 200 fires in Canada until it rains in a significant way. So he was, apparently one of them burned through the community of Jasper. And let's not pretend that they weren't defending that community. Of course they were. Well, I assume they were. And it didn't work. It burned through. And that community's lost. And he was real upset by it. He was like, hey, we just lost this beautiful place, most beautiful place on earth. And, he was speaking of it in the past tense. It's gone. Goodbye. Wow. It's nice knowing you. And, it's in the vicinity or whatever of Alberta. Now, Alberta is Canada's Mordor. Alberta, parts of it is their contribution to the fossil fuel extravaganza because they have the Canadian tar sands, which are dug up out of the earth. Like it's open pit mining, essentially, dug up out of the earth and refined in the dirtiest, most destructive way possible to get the oil out. And then that oil is put in pipelines and sent mostly into the United States. Alberta is kind of in the middle of Canada. And a lot of the refining capacity that you would need to make those tar sand oils into something saleable are actually in the U.S. So there's pipelines that send the tar sand products to the U.S. and then they're refined and put on the global market. So Jasper burned while the Canadians are developing Mordor right there in Alberta to get at the oil. And so this is an interesting uh, dichotomy, right? You're looking at this, and I have said many times in discussion with my wife, and even on here occasionally, that the entire Canadian boreal forest is going to burn. The boreal forest, and there are several of them on Earth, are the remnants of kind of the last glaciation that covered North America and northern Eurasia. As the ice sheet retreated, it exposed this new, I don't want to call it soil because it was basically bedrock. It exposed it, and the forests came in, and the final retreat of the ice was fairly recently. There's still a lot of it left in the northern Arctic region and on Greenland, and there's still permanently frozen ground associated with how cold it still is in the northern part of this planet. And permanently frozen Greenland, permanently frozen, really in anticipation of the next glaciation event, which is not going to happen now because of global heating. But these boreal forests grew up as that ice retreated, and humans also move into these areas as the ice retreats. We can't live where there's ice. So as the ice goes away, we move in. But the trees and other plants move in faster, and they are adapted to the cold. So the northern boreal forest is actually an artifact of these ice ages we've been going through. So it's all found in the north. It's all fairly recently created. It's fairly dense. There's not many humans there because, again, it's too cold and it's too far north. People don't understand this, but the places where we grow food there in part because the climate is appropriate. There's rain and there's warm summers and these kinds of and mild winters, but also because of the day length and the growing season. In the north, you don't get much sun there, and if you go north of the Arctic Circle, closer to the North Pole, you have like 3 months of night all at once, and then you have 3 months of day all at once. Just day for 3 months. The sun never sets. It just goes around and around and around. It's the craziest thing, but it never sets. In fact, the sun never sets anywhere, right? It's all just an illusion caused by the rotation of the Earth. But when you get far enough north in the summer, the sun just goes around the horizon. It never sets. It goes around. It's like the sun appears to go around everywhere else, but it never dips below the horizon. That's called sunset. It never appears above the horizon, which we call sunrise. So these boreal forests are associated with this particular phenomenon, and it's too far north to grow crops. Now that's important because that's the only place that's going to be habitable in the future. And right now, it's completely, totally fucking on fire. It's on fucking fire. There are so many fires. They are so intense. They are so hard to fight. They are so crazy. These fires are unhinged. People have to fight these fires, come out of it with PTSD. It's like being in a war zone. They're fighting these fires, and these fires are fighting back. It's like you're up against an army, an invading army, and they come out of it PTSD. It's never seen fires like this. These fires are crazy bad. And, Alberta's up there, and the tar sands are up there, and Jasper happens to be up there, and Jasper apparently got steamrolled. So there you go. And all the entirety of the Canadian boreal forest, the last vestige of the last glaciation, is going to burn. All of it is going to burn. There will be small patches left over where the fire kind of went around it for whatever, or there was a settlement there, and they fought it really hard, so the fire went around and burned other things. But, so you'll have spotting of the Canadian boreal forest up there, but it's all going to burn, essentially. For all practical purposes, it's all going to burn. And then probably the trees that don't burn will either die in place, bark beetles or whatever else, fail to reproduce because the habitat is no longer suitable for the the seedlings to germinate and grow back up. Because that's the thing. You just change global climate change. You change the habitat, and it doesn't support recruitment of new trees to replace the forest. And also people, of course, there's lumber industries up there in Canada, and they're just going to cut them all down. They're going to make them into lumber and sell them because that's what they do. They're going to cut them all down, sell them. No, but we can plant new ones. You can try. But if it's too hot and too dry and there's too much fire and the bark beetles, You may plant all these trees, millions of trees, billions of trees. You may come back a year later, and they're all gone. What happened to them? Well, the bark beetles got them, or they got too dry, or got too hot, or it got too something, and it's just not suitable habitat anymore. And it turns out the boreal forest created its own weather. It created its own habitat. And the young seedlings would find that suitable. And they just grow up like their parents did. And they become big trees. But without the big trees, the habitat is gone. You understand that? Without the big trees, the habitat is gone. Because the habitat was created by the big trees, which all burned because of the fucking fires. Okay? So that's it. You're done. At some point, you're done. You're just done. You're done. You're going to need a glaciation to come through like a steamroller and just push all the things out, push the humans out, put all the fires out, and go down and push the humans back into Africa and glaciate everything at 3 miles of ice. Everything's frozen. And then after all that, then the ice retreats and, you can start over again, right? Just like every other time, we've had to start over again. So are we going to have a glaciation and do all that and push the people out, and put the fires out, and push the civilization back into Africa and the Middle East, and freeze everything and kill everyone and kill all the animals, and kill the trees and destroy everything and then thaw? We're going to do that again? No. Why? Because global climate change caused by global heating. You can't have glaciation events if the planet's too fucking hot. There you go. You're done. You're done. When will we have glaciation again to bring back the boreal forests? I don't know. Never. Possibly never. Right? Seriously, never is a word I use here. We may never have boreal forests again. Ever. We may never have ice on Greenland. Ever. The Arctic may never freeze again. Forget Santa Claus and the Santa's workshop and the Christmas and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Forget all that. That's all gone. Alligators at the poles. Alligators at the poles. Florida alligators at the poles. Why? Because it's so hot. They can live up there. Alligators at the poles. But that sounds crazy, right? Why would that happen? How could that happen? This is crazy talk. This is like science fiction. No, it's not. That's Earth's history. That's Earth's history. Earth's own history. And the first part of going back to all that old-timey history, all that deep time, alligators at the poles, is heating the planet. We're doing that. And we're going to burn the boreal forests, and we're going to burn jasper, and we're going to burn all the jaspers. And right now, Northern California, yet again, like the third in 6 years, the third fire in 6 years is burning around my hometown. My mom lives up there, and she lives up in the piney woods. It's like the worst place to live right now. Again, another forest ecosystem. I lived up there. When I was going to college. I lived up there in those mountains, up in those trees. They're all burnt. They're all burning. Everything's burning. Everything's on fire. There's a big fucking fire right now. Going Highway 32, burning through Cohasset communities up there, Inskip and Butte Meadows and places where I went as a child. Lush forest, trees so big you can't even imagine how they got that big. And it's all burning. It's all burning. It's all burning. It's all dead and burning. It's gone. It's gone. It's as good as gone. It's all going to burn. My mom is up there right now, trapped in the middle of it. I was discussing it with my wife this morning. What am I going to do about my mom up there? I'm watching the fires every day. 4 times a day, I come in here and I sit down on the computer, pull up the Google Maps and pull up the fire reports and look at the blogs and look at the live streaming and what the fuck is going on with the Cohasset fire. Jasper burned. Paradise burned. Paradise is an actual place, not paradise anymore. It fucking burned, okay? Paradise burned. How ironic is that? Paradise on fire. Well, there's some irony for you folks. Deal with it. Paradise burned. Lovely. Just lovely. My parents barely escaped. My dad is dead now. They barely escaped that fire. 89 people did not escape that fire. A lot of them died in their cars trying to get away from the fire. Those places are death traps. Death traps. You can't get out. You can't get out. Unless you get out a couple of days ahead of time, you're not getting out. You just better hope that fire goes around you or over you or burns the guy next door and is satisfied with that, because you're not getting out at some point. You can't get out. Most people didn't get out. They died. They burned to death in their cars trying to get out. Wow. And the argument I had with my wife this morning, because I just have not because she's wrong, but because it has to be stated. Is it the problem? The problem, really, the problem is not the Alberta tar sands. We do need to leave fossil fuels in the ground, but pulling them out of the ground, putting them in a pipeline, sending them to a refinery, that's not really the problem. The global heating doesn't come from that activity or those businesses. And that's why we don't go after that activity and why we don't go after those businesses. The problem comes when you set fire to the fossil fuels and you burn them. And we have to do that. We need the fossil fuels to survive. We need these to survive. You can't survive without them. You think you can, you can't. You think you've got all the MREs you need, and you think you've got your bunker and your dog and your AR-15, and you can't survive without fossil fuels. You've got a truck, and it's got a 50-gallon tank out there behind the barn full of diesel, and you can't survive without fossil fuels. You know, my mom lives up there on that fucking mountain. It's an absolute nightmare. She has to drive. She's driving. She's over 80 years old. She has to drive 10 miles just to get to a grocery store. And there's no services. Everything burned. You know, the chiropractor burned, and the hospital burned, and the school burned, and the service stations burned, and everything burned. There's nothing up there now. It all burned. Literally, Paradise burned. And the Paradise shoe store, the Paradise watch repair, and everything, it all burned. It's gone. Jasper's gone. Paradise is gone. They burned. And everything's going to burn. It's all going to burn. You can't live up there anymore. There's millions of people, well, globally, billions of people living in places where you can't live anymore. And we're going to have to stop burning fossil fuels. And when we do, all those people are going to be displaced. Or they're going to die in place. They're going to, die of starvation, die of exposure, die of dehydration. I don't know what's going to kill them. Without fossil fuels, they're going to die. They're going to die, most of them, in place. They'll never get out. I really have a problem getting my mom out. I've got all the technology and money and resources and everything I need to do that. She's surrounded by enormous civilization and completely modern and modern finances, and modern supply chains and everything. And getting her out of those mountains is going to be a real chore. And right now she's surrounded. Well, she's not surrounded. She's surrounded by burn scars. She herself, she's fine. And there's a fire burning. And I'm looking at the weather maps, and I'm looking at the winds, and what's the temperature going to be, and what are the winds doing today, and what are the winds doing for the next 5 days? Because it would take me probably 5 days to get her out of there. Well, in a pinch, I could go up there in a rental car, throw her in the back seat, and then just drive her and her dog out of there. I guess it would take, from here, where I am, it would take 5 hours to pull that off from where I'm sitting right now. 5 hours. And then I have to find a hotel room and accommodations for her and all this kind of stuff. Of course, I would do it, just to keep her from burning to death in her mobile home. I would do that. I would go up there. Oh, but if I wait too long, then now I'm swimming upstream, right? I'm trying to get up there, and it's smoke, and it's panicky people, driving like maniacs on the highway to get out of Paradise, and sheriff blocking the road to keep looters out, and I have to get up another 20 miles into the mountains because my mom is up there. Will they even let me do it? If I wait too long, will they even let me do it? They'll just block the road. I'm sorry, sir, you can't go up there. I got to get my mom. You look like a looter to me. Maybe you're going to go to your mom and you help yourself to whatever's up there. Yeah, people do that. So really, honestly, I have to do it right now. Right? And I say, oh, another fire. God damn it. I go rent a car right now. Go up there right now before the roadblocks, before the panic, before the crowd, right? Beat the crowd. Get out of there as soon as you can. Jasper burned. Paradise burned. Everything's burning. It's all going to burn. And your problem is not the Alberta tar sands. That is a thing. But that's not your problem. The problem is you're dependent on fossil fuels. And we have to keep burning them. And every day we burn them. And every day we burn 100 million barrels, some of which comes out of Alberta. Every day we burn close to 100 million barrels of oil. Oil. That's just the oil. That's not even the natural gas and the coal. 100 million barrels of oil. 100 million barrels of oil. You didn't know that. Well, if you've been on this channel many times, you know that because I say it every single time I get on here, practically. 100 million barrels a day. 100 million barrels a day. 100 million barrels a day. And without your part of that, you die. And why is that? Because everything about your life, everything about your life, everything about your life is dependent on fossil fuels. And you're going to have some of that. You're going to have a lot of that, by the way. It's not just the piddly amount you put in your gas tank every time you need to go get a latte at Starbucks. There's also hundreds of millions of gallons a day that get burned to bring you your food and bring you your fresh water, bring you your electricity, and bring you your police protection and your fire protection, and that bring you your government, which is maintaining law and order and doing the planning for long-term survival. And all of this is dependent on fossil fuels. 100% of it, all of it, 100% of that. Without that, you die. You starve. You don't have water. You don't have protection. You know? Without it, you're done. Without all of this constant hectic hurry scurry, without this, everything around you, you die. You don't live very long. And you can think you've got your gun and your dog and your pickup truck, and you think you're going to figure it out. No, you're not. No, you're not. No. You're dependent on all of this, and your community and your family members, and you know, as soon as we turn off the fossil fuels for anybody, or as soon as there's a series of natural disasters like massive heat waves that turns it off for us, or that breaks down the global economy, all the gearing, all the gears, all the wheels, all the pulleys, all the belts, all that stuff, metaphorically and literally, is what keeps you going. And any major breakdown of that, you're done. You're just done. You're on the same Titanic as the rest of us, and you have your AR-15 and your dog and your truck, and you're still on the Titanic. You don't know that because you don't know what's going on. You don't understand your situation, but you are still on a global supply chain Titanic, and this sucker has hit the iceberg. Not going to, not could, not might, has already done so. It has hit the iceberg, and we are fucked. Okay, this is it. This is our only planet. Right now, it's the Titanic, and it's on fucking fire, and it's sinking because of global heating. Jasper burned, Paradise burned. Everything I knew is about to burn. From my hometown, yeah, me and Paul Beckwith, we're in the same boat. And everybody's in the same boat. It's called the Titanic, okay? Everybody's going to experience this. Every fucking thing is going to fucking burn. Burn. Actual fire. I don't mean metaphorical fire. I mean actual fire. It's all going to burn. It's all going to burn. Everything's going to burn. Everything is going to burn. And they're never going to shut down the Alberta tar sands. They're never going to shut down anything that has to do with fossil fuels. They're never going to do it. It's what we call the trolley problem. Do you want to go forward on the track you're on when there's all this disaster up ahead and you're just going to plow into the disaster on the trolley? Or are you going to pull the lever and jump onto this sidetrack over there where, oh, wait, there's another problem waiting for me over there? I go straight ahead, burning my fossil fuels and knowing that up there's a massive disaster of basically everything on fire and the planet becoming uninhabitable for billions of people. Do I just go straight ahead into that? Or do I pull the lever and jump onto this sidetrack at the last minute? But that sidetrack is called leaving fossil fuels on the ground and not making the situation worse. It's already bad enough, by the way. It's already bad enough to kill 8,000 million people. You don't know that. You don't think that, but that's true. You're going to find out that's true. It's already that bad. And so we have to stop burning fossil fuels with immediate effect. I mean, like right now, there's the cliff, and we have to get off of this thing. We've hit the iceberg. This is done. We have to get off with immediate effect. I mean, like yesterday, we have to get off. But if we get off, then we take the sidetrack and we say, okay, fossil fuels, right? Bad idea. Who knew? But anyway, leave them in the ground. Leave the coal in the ground. Leave the oil in the ground. Leave the natural gas in the ground. That was fun while it lasted, but now we have to leave it in the ground. So we're going to take the sidetrack called no fossil fuels. You know what's waiting for you down that track? Well, the complete destruction of everything. Your water supply, your sewer treatment, your food supply, all the supply chains for everything, and least of all your cell phone, but also your clothing, your shelter, everything. It's all down this other track of that, no fossil fuels, none of that stuff. But we have to do that. You see, that's the thing. This is a wicked problem. Any move you make now is bad. They're all bad moves. And you could, go to Alberta and tell all those people, stop working. We're not doing this anymore. And then they're going to say, but without this money, I go hungry. And, and then you're doing all this and you're thinking, okay, phew, we did the hard thing. We sent these people home. We tried to take care of them. And now the boreal forest is still going to burn. It's still going to burn because that's your environment you're in now. That's what you've done. You created this environment where everything burns. And guess what's going to happen? Everything's going to burn. And that's not going to stop. You can't stop. That's what we've created by burning fossil fuels for 300 years. Now we're in an environment where everything's going to burn. So what's it going to do? It's all going to burn. That's it. That never stops. Just because you left the fossil fuels in the ground doesn't mean that doesn't happen. That's happening right now. And there's no situation under which that doesn't continue. So everything's going to burn. But you have to stop burning fossil fuels anyway. And you have to eventually turn off the coal mining and turn off the natural gas and turn off the crude oil. And you don't get 100 million barrels a day. You don't get 1 million barrels a day. You get 0 million barrels a day. Zero. Not net zero. Zero. Actual zero. Fucking zero. Zero is the number you get. You get nothing at some point. You get nothing. And so now you're on this other track over here where there's nothing. No fossil fuels. And then, of course, that's the destruction of civilization. And for many people, what part of 8,000 million people can you not have without fossil fuels? Well, it's most of them, nearly all of them. You go down this other track where you've given up fossil fuels, that one has, the road sign for that is 99.9% die-off, if not worse. You say, well, that's apocalyptic thinking. That's just doomer thinking. No, it isn't. That's fucking science, bitch. That's reality. That's your shit. That's your shit you're in right now. 99.9% die-off. You don't like it? Well, then go to some other channel. Because right here, we talk reality. That's what I do. Talk reality. And if you keep burning fossil fuels and you keep this going, then you're going to have a massive problem with this planet. It's going to get so hot. Nobody can survive anywhere for long. And if you stop burning the fossil fuels, you go down this other side, then without fossil fuels, you can't have 8,000 million people. So that's a thing. It's a bad situation. Now, it doesn't matter whether you burn fossil fuels personally or not, because you're not really the source of the problem. Every molecule of CO2 that's now in the atmosphere that came from fossil fuels has someone's name on it. Someone burned that. And this is Bill going to Starbucks to get a latte, and this bunch of them over here is Sally going to the downtown to get her hair done, and this bunch of CO2 came from Paul, who traveled back to Europe to be with his family for Christmas. And everything up there has someone's name on it, doing something in their life that made sense at the time. Doesn't matter what you personally do. You can do it or not do it, frankly. And some people will argue with that. You should do the right thing. You should stop doing it. Okay, fine. Then do the right thing and stop doing it. But that doesn't solve the problem. And certain parts of this problem can't be solved. But here's one thing that does matter. Why you should stop burning fossil fuels. Not because I say so, and not because it's the right thing to do for Mother Earth, and not because some religious leader told you that's the proper way in the eyes of God to live, is not burn fossil fuels and destroy the planet. I mean, that can all be true, and that can all be reasons you stop doing it. But that's actually not the reason you stop doing it. You don't do it to save the planet. You do it so that when the day comes and either it is forcibly turned off or that they voluntarily turn it off, one of which is going to happen, folks. I mean, it's gone. It's done. It's done. It has to stop. Then it'll either stop because we want it to stop, or it'll stop because nature says, yeah, you're done. Okay? All the places where you pull oil out of the ground, they're all on fire. So you're done. Okay, so it's one of the two. And on that day, you're not going to have fossil fuels. And so do you have a story about how you're going to live your life without fossil fuels? You don't. Not right now. Could you? Maybe. If you thought about it and you changed how you live and you throw solar panels on your house so you have some electricity, and you pull up the turf in your backyard and the ornamental plants and you start growing food. So you have a story about food and seeds. And maybe you work with your neighbors to create the same thing for them. And then all of a sudden there's a bunch of you doing this and you're supporting each other and you're doing all this while the world hasn't gone completely to shit, right? So you got some support. You still have a garden shop and you still have a government and you still have fire and police protection. And so you can focus on doing these things. You can focus on tearing up your grass and bringing in topsoil. You can focus on building beds. You can do these things for yourself. You can buy the solar panels. You can have someone install them for you because that person is still available to do that kind of work. And you can pay them to do it and they'll happily do it because the world isn't on fire as far as they're concerned. I mean, it is on fire, but not so much that they can't drive out here in their truck and put the solar panels on your roof. And why would you put solar panels on your roof? Because you want electricity. Well, I have electricity coming in from the street out there. There's a big pole and the wire comes up to my house. I've got a electric meter, and they charge me for the electricity. Yeah, but that's not going to last because all that requires fossil fuels constantly. Trust me, it's really hard to maintain that infrastructure. There's somebody, my brother's one of those people, drives around in a truck all day, going places and fixing shit. What happens when that person can't do that, or won't do that, doesn't want to do that, or it's not safe to do that? What happens when that person goes home and is with their family and they're tearing up their backyard and they're gardening and they're doing all the things? And and they're not coming out to fix the electricity problem in your neighborhood. And so your electricity goes down for whatever, a tree or something blows up or, something catches on fire, as you do. And now you don't have electricity and there's no one coming out to fix your electricity. Why? Because they can't do that anymore. Because their life is just as bad as yours. And you were thinking that electricity would always be there. And the day that it stops, someone will come out and fix it. Except now, no one is. And that's it. You're done. You didn't know that. What happened? You're like, I'm going to call the 911. I'm going to call the electric utility company. I'm going to fix this. I'm a taxpayer. I vote and fix it for me. And they're going to sorry. I mean, we'll see what we can do, but we got other higher priorities and there's infrastructure problems everywhere. And we don't have many people working for us anymore. And a lot of the trucks are just sitting in the yard because the men won't come to work. Because they got problems, they got personal problems dealing with their families, and of course, they don't have electricity either, probably. So they're home trying to fix their particular problem, and we can't help you, and that's what you're going to get. Sorry, can't help you. Sorry, can't help you. Sorry, can't help you. And you didn't help yourself when you had the chance, and so the story is you have no story, and that's why you get off of fossil fuels now. That's why you do it. That's why you do it. Not to save the world, not because of baby Jesus. You get off the fossil fuels now for strictly selfish reasons. Because you don't want to die that way. I mean, there's lots of ways to die in the absence of fossil fuels. And there's going to be lots of problems. And the boreal forest is still going to burn. And your neighborhood is still going to burn. And, when the police and the fire department can't come to save you from whatever your personal problem is in your neighborhood, that's going to burn too. Excuse me. Yeah, get out while the getting's good. Get to a lifeboat. Get off this Titanic. And what that looks like right now at this particular point, and it won't look like this 5 years from now. This is the current story right now, the story right now. Okay, the year is 2024. The story right now is get yourself off of fossil fuels. Become as self-sufficient as you can be. Start thinking about how you're going to live without all this hurly-burly. All right? Start thinking about it. Making your plans. Or at least at the outset, recognizing your vulnerabilities. And one of them might be that you're not with your family, that you're not with the people that you would like to protect. You're not with the people who actually could help protect you and help you work through this. Yeah, it's going to be hard to live alone. It's going to be impossible. I think the people living alone are just going to be volunteering to die. 8,000 million people need to die, and so we need volunteers. And the people who are living alone, can't figure it out, have no community, have no support, they're, thank you for volunteering. That's that story. That's how that's going to be. Someone had to go first. Thank you for stepping up and going first. And then, then the people who are going to have trouble are the people who have communities and family. Are they going to be able to survive? Can they figure it out? Do they have land? Do they have water? Do they have seeds? Do they have tools? Do they have a defensible perimeter? Do they have security? Do they have working governments? Do they have working water supplies, sewer treatment? Do they have those things? Okay, well, some of those communities will, and most of them won't. And so thank you for volunteering to die. And then the ones that had all that figured out or got lucky and someone else figured it out for them, or they had some kind of a narrative about how they're going to make it with, in the future. Some of those won't make it either. There'll be a big fire that comes through. They'll be gardening and having their fences up and protecting their food and having their community, and they've got a healer and they've got a midwife and they've got teachers and they've got physicists and they've got electricians, and they kind of have enough going on that they can keep themselves working and together. They've got solar panels and they got batteries, and they got some tools and some technology that's going for them. They got some modernity. They can cook food, they can lay up food, and they got ground and they've got seed, and everyone's working the land, and all that's working out great. And then the fire comes. Why did the fire come? I don't know. Someone were cooking on a outdoor grill, and they knocked it over, and the dog got excited, and the coals fell, and the brush caught on fire, and then the trees, and then the houses, which are made out of trees. All this catches on fire, and you're doing your best you can, you and your community, trying to figure your shit out without fossil fuels. And then a big fire comes through. It kills you all, or at least destroys all of your infrastructure, destroys your narrative, destroys your story that you were writing for yourself about how you were going to survive the end of fossil fuels. It didn't work. Not because you didn't try, but because you just got unlucky. And maybe it's not a fire that comes through your community and destroys your little lifeboat that you made. Maybe it's a downpour. Maybe it's a hailstorm. Destroys. Maybe it's a literal hurricane or a literal tornado comes through and just flattens everything. Kills your people and scatters your food and scatters your seed and scatters your animals. And then you're left trying to pick up the pieces. You could just get unlucky. You could do everything right and still get unlucky. You just may be trying to do the right thing in a place that's just not the right place. Not your fault. Just luck of the draw, the roll of the dice. Now, someone's going to survive this. Someone's going to survive all the fires and the Sturm and the Drang. And someone's going to survive this. And when you find those people and you look at their history and what they did, they're going to be the ones who created village life, who recreated village life. And there'll be lots of people who don't survive who did that also, but they just got unlucky. You were just in a place where you just couldn't survive. They did all the right things. They just turns out you just couldn't survive there. And maybe they'll leave and maybe they'll go someplace else and start over. And maybe they'll just die. This is going to kill people. 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 It is. It's going to kill people who tried not to die. And it's going to kill people who didn't give a fuck. It's going to burn people to death in their car. It's going to, heat waves are just going to cook people in their homes. The power is going to fail. And the air conditioning doesn't work. And the refrigerator doesn't work. And all the food spoils. And the water can't be delivered. And all these things. And people are just going to die in their homes. They're just going to go to sleep one night at 110 degrees, and then they're going to die. And it'll be the old people, but it'll also be the children. And it could be that there's just not enough people to survive to make it work, except people who just got lucky. How does this end? Where does this go? It's a nightmare. People are going to die. People are going to die in large numbers. 8,000 million people are going to die. They're going to die. People are going to die by the billions. This is not science fiction. This is reality. This is fucking physics. This is science. This is mathematics. 8,000 million people. dependent on fossil fuels, are going to die. They're going to die. They're going to die. They're going to die. People are going to die. So there you go. What can I say? Try not to die, I guess.